Hi, I am Jillian Anderson, a high school science teacher at Lexington School for the Deaf in East Elmhurst, New York. I began working as a Globe educator in 2018, and my science research class traveled to Boston in 2019 to present their research at the Science Research Symposium. I'm also a Climate Change Research Initiative, CCRI Educator Ambassador, a program that Rosalba will talk about more shortly. And I am partnering today on this presentation with my colleague, Wade. I will voice for Wade for his introduction. I'm Wade Phillips. I'm a high school math teacher working with Jillian at the same school, Lexington. I taught science for 13 years.
I'm Rosalba. I'm a member of the Club Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force. And also I work for NASA's Office of STEM Engagement at the Goddard Institute for Space Studies in New York City. We will share a bit about the NASA Goddard Institute for Space Studies because your work at GLOBE is very important for scientists here. The NASA Goddard Institute for Space Studies is a laboratory in the Earth Sciences Division of NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. Most scientists at GISS specialize in climate change. Other areas of research include exoplanets and astrobiology. And since most of the research happening at GISS has to do with climate change, your work as part of the GLOBE program is very, very relevant to us. As you know, many scientists use satellite data for their research, but they also need to validate that data with observations from the ground. So at GISS, we are very happy to have students, teachers, and other citizen scientists making Earth science observations. The Office of STEM Engagement at the Goddard Institute for Space Studies runs a program called Climate Change Research Initiative, or CCRI. As part of this program, teams consisting of graduate students and STEM teachers do climate change research led by GISS scientists during the fall and the spring. Then in the summer, undergraduate students and high school students join the CCRI teams, and they all contribute to continue the research. An extension of the CCRI program is the CCRI Educator Ambassadors Group, which is formed by outstanding STEM teachers who meet monthly to learn about climate change research and educational resources such as GLOBE. And one of our presenters today, Ms. Jillian Anderson, is part of this amazing group.
Thank you, Rosalba, for the introduction to GISS and CCRI. Today, we will be discussing how to develop a research question that is appropriate for use with a scientific research project. Whether you are just starting to try to figure out a research project, or you have some data that you want to analyze, but you're not sure how to organize it or where to start, this webinar may be helpful for you. The scientific method is a guide that scientists use to investigate and seek an answer to a scientific question in regard to phenomena in nature. You notice that developing a research question is the first important step in the scientific method. You'll have to do background research developed by other scientists, lab reports, or science journals in order to develop a hypothesis for your research question. A hypothesis is a possible answer to the question that you develop. It's an educated guess, and it's also testable. An experiment is a way to test your hypothesis through collecting data. Analyzing data is a process of making graphs or models to explain what the data that you've collected means. The last step is to make a conclusion. It means to determine whether your hypothesis was supported or rejected according to the data that you collected. Finally, if you're watching this, Globe IVSS is the International Virtual Science Symposium and something that you may be interested in partaking in. It's an opportunity for you to share your research with other scientists for peer review. This year in 2021, reports will be accepted for IVSS between January 1st to March 10th. The judging webinar will take place on March 29th, 2021, followed by the judging period from March 29th to April 5th. Feedback and badges will be awarded along with a live drawing for stipend winners on April 22nd on 2021. So Globe has developed a system to help you assess your possible research question. Using this research questions characteristics worksheet, you can see how many points your question incorporates. To make it a little bit easier for you, we will break down the components of this rubric during this presentation. Overall, a good research question. In order to develop a good research question, you need to consider 6 things. Questions should be testable, interesting, clear, focused, concise, complex, and testable. We'll explain each of these on the next slides. So you want your research question to have some keywords that are interesting and catch the attention of others. Does it have a term that others have heard of and can think about in their lives? Does it ask something that is new, the answer to which not everybody knows? It's important to make sure your research question is very clear to the audience. They should be able to understand what the question is trying to ask us. Look at the graphic image on the slide. It shows the girl signing understand in ASL. Your question should be easy for others to understand. If there are too many moving parts in a research question, it may make the results difficult to connect and comprehend. There are so many interesting things that you can include, but you have to focus yourself on just a few. This will keep you and others from getting overwhelmed and confused by too much information. A research question has to be concise. It means that it has to be straight and to the point. It has to be summarized and very short. If a question has a simple yes or no answer, it's not complicated enough for a thorough research project. It is best for the question to have multiple parts, which suggests the possibility of a relationship or a correlation. Finally, it's very important to develop a testable research question. This will allow you to be able to collect data and determine whether the data supports a hypothesis. You need to consider if your experiment can be completed in the time that you have and with the resources available. So now we will go through some examples on the next slides and discuss whether the possible research questions align with these 6 characteristics. For example, can you see clouds in New York? Do you know the answer to this question? Can you answer with a simple yes or no? If so, this question needs a bit more complexity. Another example, what are clouds made of? It asks for clouds composition. What are those chemicals found in clouds? Are they made of water droplets and other particles? Is it possible to answer this question with a testable experiment? This example, why do clouds form? This is an interesting scientific question, and with a bit of research in a textbook or on the internet, you can find the answer to be condensation. For a research question, you want to try to develop a question that has multiple parts, not just one simple answer. Another example, in New York, why are there contrails? That's a cause and effect question. What causes contrails? Maybe there are airplanes that cause those contrails to be created in the sky. Again, a quick internet search tells us that there are many airports in New York, which may be the reason why planes are seen making contrails there. For example, when clouds are in the sky, is it cold and sunny, or is it warm and raining? And also, are contrails from airplanes? This question has many parts to it, but is not clearly focused on one relationship or experiment. Could this be easily tested and communicated to others? Now, this example, does temperature affect the number of contrails observed? That question checks to see if 2 things are related. Is temperature related to the number of contrails? If there is a relationship according to the data, is the relationship positive or is it negative? As the temperature increases, does the number of contrails observed increase or does it decrease? One more example. Does airplane size affect the number of contrails produced? This question also checks the relationship between 2 factors. Is bigger airplane size related to more contrail production? Or smaller airplane size associated with more contrail production? There are multiple parts to this question that can be examined through data analysis and is a good example of a research question. In conclusion, developing a research question is an important part of every research project. Doesn't matter if it's the first step or if you go out of order to collect data first and officially form your question later. Make sure you ask yourself, is my question interesting, clear, focused, concise, complex, and testable? You can use Globe's research question characteristic worksheet to help you. So one question, what's the difference between a hypothesis and a research question? Well, a hypothesis is a possible answer to your research question. Another question is, where's a good place to start in developing a research question? Your own interests. What do you want to learn about? Also, what are some helpful resources for developing a research question? Again, Globe's research questions characteristic worksheet or a website that's like Science Buddies, Science Fair project questions that I've linked in the presentation. That's also a good resource. So thank you. We hope that you have enjoyed our presentation and that it helps you with your research project. Please let us know if you have any other questions.